Mara Bennett had worked for Adrian Romano for almost 3 years, and in all that time she had learned one important rule: never ask the Mafia Boss why. If Adrian told someone to leave a room, they left. If he cancelled a meeting, nobody questioned him. And if his expression suddenly became cold, everyone around him immediately became careful with their words. Mara was different from the people surrounding him. She wasn't intimidating, glamorous, or interested in power. She was simply his secretary, a quiet, intelligent woman who preferred spreadsheets, books, and peaceful mornings to expensive parties and dangerous men. That was why she was completely unprepared for what happened one Friday evening. Adrian walked out of his office while Mara was organizing documents. "Cancel my dinner meeting." "With Mr. Bellini?" "Yes." "Should I reschedule it?" "No." He walked past her, then stopped. "Mara." She looked up. "Yes, sir?" "You're coming to dinner." She blinked. "I'm sorry?" "You heard me. I have dinner plans?" "You do now." Mara stared at him. For 3 years, she had barely eaten lunch in the same room as Adrian. Now he had invited her to dinner. She had no idea why. And somehow, that frightened her more than anything else. At 7:30, Mara stood in front of her mirror. She had spent 20 minutes deciding what to wear. Everything in her closet suddenly seemed wrong. Too formal. Too casual. Too plain. Too noticeable. Finally, she chose a simple dark blue dress. It wasn't expensive or revealing. It was simply elegant. She tied her hair back and looked at herself. "You're going to dinner," she whispered. "It's not a wedding." She tried to laugh. It didn't work. When she arrived downstairs, Adrian was waiting beside his black car. He looked at her. And for the first time since she had known him, he didn't immediately say anything. His eyes remained on her for several seconds. Mara nervously touched her hair. "Is something wrong?" "No." "Then why are you staring?" Adrian opened the car door. "Get in." She hesitated. "That's not an answer." A faint smile appeared on his face. "No. It isn't." The restaurant was one of the most exclusive places in the city. Mara recognized it immediately. She had once booked a private room there for one of Adrian's meetings. But tonight there were no business partners. No paperwork. No negotiations. Only 2 plates, 2 glasses, and Adrian. Mara sat opposite him. "This is strange." "What is?" "You inviting me." "Why?" "Because you're my secretary." "And?" "People don't usually take their secretaries to dinner." Adrian leaned back. "Perhaps I don't usually do what people expect." She smiled slightly. "That seems accurate." Dinner arrived. Mara barely touched her food. Adrian noticed. "You're nervous." "A little." "Why?" "Because you're Adrian Romano." He almost laughed. "And what exactly does that mean?" "It means everyone is terrified of you." "Are you?" Mara considered the question. "Yes." Adrian's expression softened. "Why?" "Because you never show anyone what you're thinking." He looked down at his glass. "You're the only person who has ever said that to my face." "I'm sorry." "Don't be." Then Adrian looked directly at her. "I wanted to have dinner with someone who didn't want anything from me." Mara understood. Everyone around Adrian wanted something. Money. Protection. Power. Influence. Mara wanted none of it. "You could have invited anyone." "I did." She looked confused. "I invited you." The word stayed in Mara's mind. She looked around the restaurant. "Why me?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he picked up his glass. "Do you remember 3 months ago when my father died?" "Yes." You were the only employee who didn't ask me for anything. Mara looked surprised. I sent flowers. I know. That isn't exactly heroic. No. But everyone else sent expensive gifts and requests. He smiled faintly. You sent flowers and a handwritten note. Mara remembered. She had written only, I'm sorry for your loss. You don't have to answer. Adrian had kept that note. I still have it, he said. Mara stared. You kept it? Yes. Something changed in her expression. Adrian leaned slightly forward. Tonight, you're not my secretary. What am I? My dinner companion. Her heart began beating faster. She didn't know whether to smile or become nervous. So she did both. The dinner was going surprisingly well. Adrian told her stories about his childhood that nobody in the office had ever heard. Mara discovered that the terrifying mafia boss had once broken his arm trying to climb a tree because he wanted to impress his older brother. She laughed. Adrian stared at her. What? You laughed at me. You broke your arm climbing a tree. I was 12. That makes it worse. He smiled. For a moment, he looked completely ordinary. Then 3 men entered the restaurant. Mara recognized one immediately. Victor Bellini. Adrian's former business associate. Victor walked toward their table. You canceled our meeting for this? Adrian's face instantly changed. The warmth disappeared. This isn't your concern. Victor looked at Mara. Who's she? Adrian's voice became dangerously quiet. Leave. Victor laughed. You've become sentimental. Mara lowered her eyes. She didn't want to be involved. But Victor continued. Everyone knows you don't care about anyone. Adrian slowly stood. You have 5 seconds. Victor's smile disappeared. The restaurant became silent. Adrian didn't need to shout. He simply looked at him. Victor eventually turned around and left. Mara looked at Adrian. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Why? Adrian sat down. Because you were uncomfortable. After dinner, Adrian stood. Come with me. Where? The ballroom. There isn't a dance tonight. There is now. Mara stared at him. You're joking. I don't joke. That makes this worse. He extended his hand. Mara looked at it. Then at him. You're serious? Yes. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. Adrian led her onto the empty dance floor. Soft music began playing. Mara was stiff at first. I don't know how to dance. I do. That doesn't help. It will. His hand rested carefully at her waist. Mara looked up. Their eyes met. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Then Adrian whispered. You're shaking. So are you. He looked surprised. I'm not. You are. She smiled. For the first time that evening, Adrian actually laughed. Mara realized something. The terrifying mafia boss everyone feared wasn't terrifying when he smiled. He was simply a man. The following morning, Mara returned to work. She expected everything to be awkward. Instead, Adrian behaved as if nothing had happened. He called her into his office. Prepare the Bellini files. She nodded. Of course. Then he added. And Mara? Yes? Last night was not a mistake. Her heart skipped. I didn't say it was. I know. He looked at her. I wanted you to know. She nodded and left. But neither of them noticed the man standing in the hallway. Victor Bellini. He had heard everything. And he had just discovered Adrian's weakness. 2 days later, Mara received an anonymous message. Stay away from Adrian Romano. She deleted it. Another arrived. You don't know what you're getting involved in. She ignored it. The third contained a photograph. It showed her leaving Adrian's car. Mara's hands became cold. She immediately went to Adrian. He saw her expression. What happened? She showed him the phone. Adrian's face hardened. Who sent this? I don't know. He stood. From now on, you don't leave this building without security. Adrian. No. I can take care of myself. I know. His voice softened. That isn't the point. What is? I can't protect you if you keep pretending you're not in danger. Mara stared at him. You're protecting me because I'm your secretary? Adrian paused. No. He looked directly into her eyes. That's the problem. Adrian discovered that Victor had been behind the messages. But Victor wasn't simply trying to frighten Mara. He wanted Adrian distracted. The Romano organization was facing an internal betrayal. Someone inside Adrian's security team was selling information. Mara had noticed strange payments weeks earlier. Several transfers didn't match the company's usual patterns. She quietly investigated. Then she found a connection between 5 shell companies. She placed the files on Adrian's desk. I think you have a traitor. Adrian studied the documents. Then looked at her. You found this? Yes. How long? 3 weeks. His expression changed. You investigated this alone? I didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. Adrian slowly stood. You just saved my organization. Mara shook her head. I just did my job. No. He looked at her with something close to admiration. You did much more than that. The traitor was Adrian's most trusted security chief. Marcus had worked for him for 15 years. When Adrian confronted him, Marcus didn't deny it. I did what I had to do. You sold information. I sold information to survive. Adrian's voice was cold. You put Mara in danger. Marcus looked toward her. She was never supposed to be involved. Adrian stepped forward. But she was. Marcus lowered his eyes. Boss, Victor wasn't the real problem. Adrian froze. Explain. Marcus hesitated. There is someone above him. Who? I never saw his face. Mara looked at Adrian. Marcus continued. He has been waiting for years for you to make one mistake. Adrian's eyes narrowed. And now? Marcus looked at Mara. Now he knows exactly where to hurt you. 3 nights later, Mara was leaving work. The parking garage was almost empty. She pressed the button for her car. The light suddenly flickered. Then went out. Mara stopped. Her heart began pounding. Footsteps echoed behind her. Mara. She turned. Victor stepped from the shadows. You've caused me a lot of trouble. I don't know what you're talking about. You found the accounts. Mara stepped backward. I don't know anything. Victor smiled. You're smarter than people think. He moved closer. Then headlights flooded the garage. A black car stopped between them. The door opened. Adrian stepped out. Victor froze. Adrian walked toward them. You made one mistake. Victor looked nervous. What? You threatened the one person I can't afford to lose. Victor reached toward his jacket. Adrian's security team immediately surrounded him. Victor was taken away. Mara stood frozen. Adrian walked toward her. Are you hurt? She shook her head. No. He exhaled. Then pulled her into a careful embrace. Mara's eyes widened. She had never seen Adrian afraid. but now she could feel his heart racing. "You scared me," he whispered. After that night, things changed. Mara stopped pretending she didn't care about Adrian. Adrian stopped pretending he could remain indifferent to her. One evening, they sat together in his office. The city lights shimmered through the windows. Mara looked at him. "Why me?" Adrian smiled. "Because you never treated me like a mafia boss." "What did I treat you like?" "A difficult employer." She laughed. "That sounds about right." He became serious. "You were the first person who saw me without wanting something." Mara lowered her eyes. "And you? What about me? What do you want?" Adrian moved closer. "You." Her heart raced. "Adrian, I don't mean as my secretary." She looked up. "I know." He reached for her hand. Mara didn't pull away. Mara knew being with Adrian wouldn't be simple. His world was dangerous. His enemies were real. His life was complicated. But she also knew something else. For 3 years, she had watched the man behind the reputation. She had seen his loneliness, his kindness, his loyalty, his fear. And she had fallen in love with him long before she admitted it. "I don't want to be something you have to protect," she whispered. Adrian shook his head. "I don't want you to be." "Then what do you want?" He smiled. "I want you beside me." Mara took his hand. "Then I'll stay." But there was one problem. Mara still believed Adrian only wanted her because she had become useful. She didn't yet understand how deeply his feelings had changed. A week later, Adrian invited Mara to his private home. She expected another romantic dinner. Instead, she walked into a room filled with Adrian's closest family members. His younger sister smiled immediately. "So you're Mara?" Mara froze. "You've heard about me?" Adrian looked annoyed. "My sister talks too much." His sister laughed. "She talks about you constantly." Mara turned toward Adrian. "You talk about me?" Adrian looked away. "Apparently." Everyone laughed. For the first time, Mara saw the private side of his family. They weren't all criminals. They were people. People who had lost brothers, fathers, and friends. People who loved each other. At the end of dinner, Adrian's sister pulled Mara aside. "He hasn't smiled like this in years." Mara looked toward Adrian. He was watching them. "Are you sure?" His sister nodded. "Very." Just when Mara believed the danger was over, Adrian received a phone call. He listened silently. Then his expression became cold. Mara immediately knew something was wrong. What happened? Victor was only the messenger. Who was behind him? Adrian looked at her. "The man who has been targeting my family for years." "Do you know him?" "Yes." "Who?" Adrian hesitated. "My uncle." Mara stared. "Your uncle?" "He believes the organization should belong to him." "And what does he want?" "Everything." Adrian's phone rang again. A message appeared. A photograph of Mara. Taken outside her apartment. Underneath it were 6 words. "You can't protect her forever." Adrian's jaw tightened. Mara looked at the screen. "What are we going to do?" Adrian took her hand. "We stop running." Adrian wanted Mara to leave the city. She refused. "No. Mara. You asked me to stay beside you. That doesn't mean staying in danger. You don't get to decide everything for me." Adrian stared at her. Nobody spoke to him that way. Mara continued. "I've spent my entire life letting other people decide what I can handle." She took a breath. "But I'm not helpless." Adrian's expression softened. "I know." "Then trust me." He nodded. I do. Mara looked at the documents spread across his desk. Your uncle knows your movements because someone is still giving him information. Adrian looked at her. You think the traitor isn't gone? I think we've been looking in the wrong place. She pointed to a schedule. Look at the dates. Adrian studied them. Then his eyes widened. You're right. The leak wasn't coming from security. It was coming from inside Adrian's financial department. And Mara knew exactly how to expose it. Mara created 3 different false schedules. Each was given to a different department. One said Adrian would attend a business meeting. Another said he would visit his warehouse. The third said he would attend a private dinner. Only one person received all 3. Mara waited. Hours later, Adrian received an anonymous message. Don't go to the warehouse tonight. He smiled. We found him. The traitor was arrested. But Adrian's uncle still remained. He had lost his information source. Now he became desperate. That night, Adrian took Mara to a secure location. She looked at him. Are you afraid? Yes. She was surprised. Of your uncle? No. He took her hand. Of losing you. Mara's eyes softened. You won't. How do you know? Because I'm sitting beside you. Adrian's uncle finally appeared at an abandoned estate outside the city. He demanded control of the organization. Adrian refused. You always thought power was everything. His uncle laughed. And you don't? No. Adrian looked toward Mara. I finally learned there are things more valuable than power. His uncle shook his head. You've become weak. Mara stepped forward. No. Everyone looked at her. He became human. Adrian looked at her. His uncle stared in disbelief. You think she can save you? Mara answered calmly. No. She smiled. He doesn't need saving. The police sirens began approaching in the distance. Mara had already sent the evidence to authorities. Adrian's uncle realized he had lost. For the first time, Adrian didn't have to solve everything with fear. He had evidence. He had witnesses. And he had someone beside him who believed in him. Months later, the city had changed. Adrian's organization was no longer controlled through fear. He had transformed his legitimate businesses. Mara became the head of his financial division. She was no longer simply his secretary. One evening, Adrian took her back to the same restaurant where their story had begun. The same table. The same city lights. The same quiet music. Mara smiled. You planned this? Yes. Why? Because I wanted to ask you something. She raised an eyebrow. Another dinner? No. Adrian stood. Then reached into his pocket. Mara's eyes widened. Adrian. He got down on one knee. I spent years believing that power meant never needing anyone. He looked at her. Then you walked into my office with a stack of boring financial reports and somehow became the most important person in my life. Mara laughed through tears. That's your proposal? No. He opened the box. Will you sit beside me for the rest of your life? Mara covered her mouth. Yes. 1 year later, Mara walked into the same ballroom where Adrian had first asked her to dance. This time, she wasn't nervous. She wore a simple, elegant dress. Adrian waited at the center of the room. He smiled when he saw her. Ready? She nodded. They began dancing. Mara rested her head against his shoulder. You know something? What? When you first told me, you're sitting beside me tonight, I thought you were ordering me. Adrian smiled. I was. She laughed. And now? Now I'm asking. She looked up. Asking what? Stay beside me. Mara squeezed his hand. I am. Around them, the people who had once feared Adrian watched quietly. They had seen him as a ruthless mafia boss. But Mara had seen something different. She had seen a lonely man. A man who didn't know how to ask for love. A man who thought power could replace trust. And she had taught him otherwise. The shy secretary who once avoided eye contact with him had become the one woman who could challenge him, laugh at him, and tell him when he was wrong. Adrian had once ordered everyone around him. But when it came to Mara, he had learned something far more important. Love couldn't be commanded. Trust couldn't be purchased. And loyalty couldn't be demanded. They had to be earned. That night, as the music continued, Adrian whispered, "Do you remember our first dinner?" Mara smiled. "I remember being terrified." "And now?" She looked into his eyes. "Now I'm exactly where I want to be. Beside him. Not because he was powerful. Not because he was feared. Not because he was a mafia boss. But because behind the dangerous reputation was a man who had finally learned how to love someone without trying to control her. And behind the shy secretary was a woman who had discovered that sometimes the most unexpected invitation can change an entire life. The restaurant lights reflected across the windows. The music slowed. Adrian pulled her slightly closer. And Mara smiled. Because the words that had once sounded like an order, "You're sitting beside me tonight," had quietly become the most beautiful promise of her life.